What's up, guys? It's MB Boxing, and I just finished up watching Jamal James versus Radzhab Butaev, and this was a 12-rounder for the WBA welterweight world championship. And this fight was Saturday, October 30th, from the Michelob Ultra Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. And this fight was broadcasted on Showtime. And in this fight, Radzhab Butaev was able to defeat Jamal James by 9th-round knockout to become the new WBA welterweight world champion. I had the bout score 77-74 in favor of Radzhab Butaev leading up to the stoppage. And just to break down the fight, the first 3 rounds were fairly competitive, and I had it 29-28 in favor of Jamal James after those first 3 rounds. But then from there on, I gave every single round to Radzhab Butaev. He really started to break down Jamal James. Early on, Jamal James looked good. He was landing some sharp combinations from the outside. The first round being the only round I gave to Butaev out of the first three. And Jamal James looked good in those first 3 rounds. He was boxing good, landing some sharp combinations. Wasn't really getting hit much to the body nor to the head, occasionally with some liver shots, but nothing much. But then in the 5th round, actually, Jamal James was sort of like in the clinch a bit with Butaev. Then Butaev sort of like twirled him around and hit him, and referee did not call for a break, and then he deducted a point from Butaev, which I don't think he should have. He didn't call a break, so therefore Butaev is really allowed to hit Jamal James because, it was really Jamal James' fault for being the one that's really twirling around in the clinch and having his back face to Butaev, who's his opponent, who's really in there to really apply damage, apply pressure, and land shots of his own to win this fight. And even before that, in the 4th round, Jamal James was actually buzzed quite a bit to the body and to the head. Butaev, it was really just his immense pressure, especially with those body shots, really those right hands to the liver, as I was mentioning in my prediction video. Those right hooks are just brutal from Butaev. And especially when he would switch southpaw, he looked excellent, and that's a great thing for him. He's able to switch between southpaw and orthodox, and when he would fight at southpaw, he was just really confusing Jamal James. He'd feint with the left hand, then he'd leap in with his power straight as a southpaw. It was just beautiful work from Butaev all night, and it might be close on the judges' scorecards because of that knockdown, or because of the point deduction, I should say. There was no knockdowns in this fight, but then from rounds like 5 and on, they were just the same. Or should I say from like rounds 4 and on, they were very similar, where Radzhab Butaev was just pressuring and breaking down Jamal James bit by bit, just with those body shots and those head shots, mainly those hooks and those uppercuts as well. But then in the 9th round, Jamal James was having some success for the first half of the round, jabbing on the outside, and he was seemingly winning the round up until Butaev had a sort of flurry of shots, landing to the body, to the head, and Jamal James looked done, but he was still winning that round, I would say. But then, whilst Jamal James was backing up from just getting hit to the body and to the head with some nice shots, it was mainly that right hand straight to the head, followed by some hooks to the body while he was backing up, as I mentioned before. Referee Celestino Ruiz stopped the fight. I think it was a premature stoppage. I don't think they should have stopped it, or the referee should have stopped it right there. It was definitely too early. It's not like Jamal James was seriously hurt or anything. He just got hit with a couple of good shots, and the referee waved it off. I don't think it should have been a stoppage there. Comment down below your thoughts on the stoppage, if you thought it was premature or not, but I would say that I thought it was premature in my opinion. So what is next for Radzhab Butaev? And I think there's really only one option, being that this is part of the box-off tournament between the regular WBA champion and the super WBA champion at welterweight. I think Radzhab Butaev is going to fight the winner of Yordenis Ugas versus Imantas Stanionis for the super WBA welterweight championship. As I mentioned before, part of the box-off tournament consisting of obviously the super and the regular champion. This is sort of the semifinal, I guess you could say, where Radzhab Butaev, now defeating Jamal James, moves to the final and will most likely fight the winner of Imantas Stanionis versus Yordenis Ugas for that super title. So it's really only 2 opponents he could possibly face, either Imantas Stanionis or Yordenis Ugas. But as for Jamal James losing here for the first time by knockout, his only other loss was to Yordenis Ugas by decision. And yeah, in this fight, he didn't look too great later on, but early on, he was able to box and he looked fairly decent. But I would say he should fight someone in maybe the top 25, top 30 at welterweight. I mean, who knows if like a guy like Luis Colazo is still fighting. I'm pretty sure he did retire when he fought Stanionis. But yeah, I think someone maybe at the level like a top 30, top 35, top 25, maybe a journeyman, something like that in the welterweight division. I don't think he should fight someone in the top 10, somewhere around there. I mean, who knows? You might be able to see possibly like Jamal James versus. I mean, there's a lot of names in the welterweight division. It's one of the best divisions out there. Maybe a guy like a Cody Crawley. He's a decent Canadian undefeated welterweight. Maybe a guy like Kudratio Abdulkakarov. He's an undefeated Uzbek welterweight. Like someone around like the top 20 in that welterweight division. I mean, there's just so many fighters that he could fight because PBC is really the home of the welterweights. There's just so many welterweight fighters in that weight class. I mean, it could just be anyone within the top 35 to the top 20 in the welterweight division for Jamal James' next opponent. So overall, Radzhab Butaev defeats Jamal James by knockout in the 9th round to become the new WBA welterweight world champion. And yeah, that's really it. I'm MB Boxing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.